Well, hello, America. So, this weekend, let me start with a couple of cuts here. Let me start with Vice President Vance over the weekend on crime. Let's go cut one.
Just to echo something the president said about crime in Washington, D.C., this is the national capital of the greatest nation in the world, and we had murder rates just a few weeks ago that rivaled some of the worst third world cities anywhere, even in very, very poor regions of the world. Why did we accept that? Why did we allow it to happen? We allowed it to happen because we had broken leadership in Washington, D.C., and unfortunately sitting behind the Resolute desk. What we have shown in just under 2 weeks of taking law enforcement seriously is that the American people can have their streets back if their leadership is willing to put in the time and the resources. Mr. President, you've shown in Washington, D.C. that we can have safe streets again. We've just got to have the political willpower to focus on the bad guys and to give the American people back their communities. We are focused on doing that thanks to the president's leadership.
Okay, now that is really important. There is one phrase in there that is so critical, and I just want you to file it away, and that is, we just need to take law enforcement seriously. Law enforcement seriously. Just file that away. I'm going to come back to it here in just a second. Now, here's what Donald Trump said about other cities. Listen.
And after we do this, we'll go to another location and we'll make it safe also. We're going to make our country very safe. We're going to make our cities very, very safe. Chicago's a mess. You have an incompetent mayor, grossly incompetent. And we'll straighten that one out probably next. That'll be our next one after this. And it won't even be tough. And the people in Chicago, Mr. Vice President, are screaming for us to come. They're wearing red hats, just like this one. But they're wearing red hats. African-American ladies, beautiful ladies, are saying, please, President Trump, come to Chicago. Please. I did great with the black vote, as you know, and they want something to happen. So I think Chicago will be our next, and then we'll help with New York, and we're going to help with. And I think a lot of these people that you see on television, they are, including the people in this audience, they'll say bad things about me, and then they'll say, "Thank God he's here."
Okay, so now the next after D.C. is going to be Chicago. All right, I'm going to get to that here in just a second. Now, let me play the Chicago mayor and what the Chicago mayor said when he heard this from Donald Trump. Here is the incompetent Chicago mayor, cut 13.
And so, look, we're going to remain firm. We'll take legal action. But the people of this city are accustomed to rising up against tyranny. And if that's necessary, I believe that the people of Chicago will stand firm alongside of me as I work every single day to protect the people of this city.
Okay. I just want to ask you some questions. What is tyranny? What is our Constitution? What does our Constitution mean? Are there breaking points? Are there exceptions? Do the ends justify the means? Do you want safer streets? At what cost do you want those safer streets? Let me start with a warning here, at least on the surface. The president does not have a clear constitutional path to federalize police in Chicago or any other city outside of Washington, D.C. It just doesn't. Now, remember, I said a clear path. Go back and think about what I was saying about J.D. Vance. What did he say? He said they just have to take law enforcement seriously. I'm going to come back to this. But Washington, D.C. is not a state. It's a district. It's a federal territory. It is completely different than anything else in America. And the founders designed it that way. They didn't want the nation's capital dependent, or held hostage by some state. So this means that the president does have direct authority to bring federal law enforcement in to D.C., even the military, to patrol the streets for 30 days. Then it requires Congress to act and pass a bill that says he can continue to do that. And crime has gone down dramatically In 10 days, there hasn't been a single murder in Washington, D.C. That's almost a parting of the Red Seas. Okay? So let's catalog this. Washington, D.C. is different. He has the right to do it, and it's worked marvelously. Okay. Now let's go to the Constitution for a second. The Constitution is very clear. Policing is a state power. It's a 10th Amendment right. Okay? The federal government cannot police our streets. Now, the president has some tools. One, the Insurrection Act of 1807. What is that? I think this is what the president is thinking. That law allows the commander-in-chief to send troops into a state without the governor's permission if there's an actual insurrection. Now, what does an insurrection mean? That means, now hear me clearly, if laws are being openly defied on a mass scale, or if constitutional rights are being stripped away. Okay. Constitutional rights being stripped away, that takes us to Johnson, the civil rights era, takes us to Kennedy. The Los Angeles riots in 1992, that's how George W. Bush did it. Civil rights. But these were extraordinary events, right? Gang murders, do they meet this constitutional threshold? I'm not sure. Here's why. Aren't laws being openly defied on a mass scale in our cities, especially sanctuary cities? Aren't our laws being openly defied on a mass scale? Now, this is something a court is going to decide, because believe me, it's going to go to court. But I think that's where the president is landing. Now, my responsibility is to tell you the truth, not to make you feel better, not to be on somebody's side, but to tell you what I think the truth is. You may disagree with my opinion, but my opinion means nothing if I don't tell you what I believe is the right thing, what I believe is the wrong thing, and what I believe the truth is. We go a little deeper into the Constitution. We have posse comitatus. That's the Act of 1878, and it was written precisely to keep the government, federal government, from sending in the army or the military to become a domestic police force. It can't. Why? Because even by the late, or mid 1800s, the country still remembered the redcoats. They also still remembered during the Civil War, and people were tired of having the government in their cities by this time. So posse comitatus came around. Our founders fought a revolution to rid themselves of a government that used soldiers to enforce its will on its own people. They weren't using the police. They were using soldiers. That's why Alexander Hamilton, who actually believed in a very strong government, still warned of the dangers of a standing army. That's why up until World War II, we didn't have a standing army. Jefferson, Madison, Hamilton, all of them terrified of a standing army. Because once you give the president a precedence to send troops into one city for crime, where does it end? Now, you could say, well, it ends with this president. He's going to do it the right way. Yes. But the reason we have laws is not for the exception of the good guy. We have it for all the bad guys that will follow. You might think that it's okay for Donald Trump, because I don't think Donald Trump is a fascist. I don't think Donald Trump will abuse this. I think he will quash crime. However, what's going to stop the next president that's not your guy from doing something where you're like, wait a minute, you can't send in the troops to do that. Well, yeah, you can, because you already made the exception. You send somebody into your neighborhood next time, or to a protest, or to a school board meeting that gets out of hand. What do you do if you don't have the Constitution to rely on? This is what tyranny is, and this is a slope to tyranny. It doesn't mean that Donald Trump is a tyrant. It means these are the things, these are the tools that allow tyrants to grab hold. So we know what works. What works? Enforcing the laws. That's what works. Now, are they going to do it? No. Chicago's not going to do it. You know, going after a small group of repeat offenders who drive most of the shootings, hotspot policing, putting resources in the most dangerous blocks instead of blanketing whole neighborhoods, those are the things that work. Actually going in and arresting and then sentencing to a real term in jail for real crimes, that works. You know, if you want a model for the president, Chicago has already done this once, and the federal government did send in feds. Chicago has always been a tough city because it's always been crime-ridden in the city halls. Okay, it's always been dirty. So what happened? Well, during Prohibition, there was a lot of people making an awful lot of money, and they had money to spread around for every politician. Everybody would just keep their mouths shut, and the guy who was doing it was Al Capone. Well, they didn't send in the army. They could have, I guess. You could have said, well, they're not enforcing the law in Chicago. Look at what's happening. Everybody's been bribed. The president at the time didn't send in the military. Let me tell you what he did here in 60 seconds. First, let me tell you about Cozy Earth. When you think of luxury, maybe you picture a 5-star hotel or some high-end spa, or, you know, a friend that seems to have everything figured out. But here's the truth. Luxury doesn't have to live out there someplace. It can be with you. It can be experienced the second you walk through the front door. Cozy Earth has created bedding and apparel that are so soft, you'll wonder how you ever slept without it. You have loungewear from Cozy Earth. You have bedding from Cozy Earth. It's all about temperature, breathability, and the way that their products seem to read your body like a book, keeping you comfortable through the night. There's a reason Cozy Earth products are in so many homes, including mine, because Cozy Earth isn't just selling sheets or towels or apparel. Their pants in particular and their shirts are really, really great. They're selling you a better version of rest, comfort, of life. And once you've experienced that, you'll never go back. So go to CozyEarth.com, use the promo code BECK for the 40% off the softest bedding, bathwear, and other apparel. It's CozyEarth.com, promo code BECK. Cozy Earth, built for real life and made to keep up with yours. 10 seconds. So how did the federal government deal with Al Capone? Well, they didn't send in the army to fight horrible, horrible crime and corruption in that city. They instead used their federal authority in areas where the feds had legitimate space. Tax evasion, bootlegging, enforcing federal revenue laws. They beat organized crime by staying inside of the Constitution. And there are ways inside the Constitution for the president to do things. Not soldiers in the streets, not a federal police force. The president's duty is to protect and preserve and defend the Constitution of the United States, not to bend it because a city is in crisis. Because once you break the Constitution to solve one problem, you unleash 100 other problems down the line. I don't know what the right answer is here. I'm not a constitutional scholar. I'm not an attorney. But I would urge the president to make sure he is on strong constitutional founding or footing so he does not open doors for others. The founders gave us federalism, that's state power, local control, and that is a balance and a check to federal authority. And let me tell you, we don't have checks and balances anymore. One of the last ones we have is a check on federal power by our state and local government. So yes, by all means, clean up the streets. You can send in ICE. You can start arresting people who are breaking the law and who are not enforcing the law, I think. And I think you can do it constitutionally. You have to do it through state and local authority, through the communities, through federal agents enforcing the federal laws, but not occupying cities. If we let that happen, we might stop the shootings in Chicago, but we will have lost something even more precious, the limits on government that keep all of us free. Sometimes the Constitution sucks, doesn't it? Sometimes it really sucks because it stops you from doing the right thing. We all know how to stop crime in Chicago. We all know. And we all know that it's not going to stop in Chicago. It's not, because the system is so unbelievably corrupt. How do you deal with the people who are living in Chicago that their kids are being shot? Their kids are being killed. What do you just say, I can't do anything about it? Is that what you do? I want to get into next. I want to talk to you about gerrymandering. Because gerrymandering is absolutely out of control. The left has been doing this forever. Now the right is jumping in and saying, hey, if you're going to do that. And in that particular case, I think they're right. That is the way the system is set up. It is. I don't like it. I have a better idea, I think. And, unfortunately, the left is now starting to present Congress with better ideas. And these better ideas are not better ideas. So we better have a better idea on the table. And that's all that President Trump, I think, is looking for. I think he's looking for better ideas. How do we stop this? We all know it's a problem. We all know you don't have to live that way. He is proving it in Washington, D.C. All you have to do is arrest people, try them, and put them in jail. That's all you have to do. That stops most crime. What's so hard to figure out? Well, that won't happen in Philadelphia. It certainly won't happen in New York. It won't happen in Chicago. It won't happen in L.A. Why? Because of politics. That's why.
This is Glenn Beck.
There is a thread that runs through history, unbroken for thousands of years, and it began with the promises that God made to Abraham. It grew in the Torah, and then it was, filled in the teachings and life of Jesus. And Christians and Jews share that story. It's a story that really changed the world. It's faith, struggle, hope. It shaped the foundation of Western civilization. And yet, throughout history, the Jewish people have been persecuted, attacked, and too often left alone. Today, Israel faces enemies that seek her destruction, and families that are there live under constant threat. If you've not been there, you don't really understand it. It's quite different from our life. For Christians, this is not some far-off story. It is our family. It's our shared heritage. Scripture commands us to comfort my people. Well, the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews does just that. Food, shelter, aid to those in need, also while standing as a shield of support for Israel in times of crisis. Stand with them now. Would you go and make a donation to ifcj.org? That's ifcj.org.
Stay on top of what you need to stay on top of with the email newsletter at glennbeck.com. It's free. Subscribe now. glennbeck.com.
Glenn Beck Program. So we are, I want to switch gears to gerrymandering, because here is a Here is another example of what do we do? What do we do? And Stu, you ran a poll over the weekend on gerrymandering. I love this.
Yeah, but I was thinking of where do we go from here? So if California does wind up passing, and there's still some steps for that to happen, to try to get 5 seats to respond to Texas's redistricting change, what should we do next? The 3 options were, let it be. This is over. We each did tit for tat. Number 2.
Nope.
Number 2, we respond with 1 red state. They did a blue state. We're going to do a red state. Like we just keep going.
No.
And then option number 3 was max out all of our red states. Let's just go for it right now and cut the cord. Well, you agreed.
That is where I'm at.
You agreed with the audience. The results were let it be 4%, respond in 1 red state 2.2%, max out all red states 93.8%.
Okay, so here's why I'm there. Unlike the Chicago thing, which I think there are paths to fixing this and making Chicago safe, I just want to be very clear we must follow the Constitution. There's a situation I want to fix, and I'm not sure we know how to fix it yet because we would be violating constitutional norms, and we can't open that door. Gerrymandering is, that's been happening since 1815. Named after Eldridge Gerry, who was a signer of the Declaration of Independence and I think the Constitution. And he started gerrymandering. It's actually Eldridge Gerry, and he started making things. And it was named that because the district that he made looked like a salamander. Okay, and so he was gerrymandering. Now that has become norm. And it has become so obscene that places like Chicago, where I think 40% of people vote in Illinois, 40% vote for the Republicans, but they only have 17% of the representation. How is that possible? How's that possible? In Maryland, the president was talking to the governor and saying, hey, look, governor, you got to clean stuff up, et cetera, et cetera. And the governor responded to him with that and the gerrymandering thing with, I might have to gerrymander to make things more fair. Currently, there's only 1 Republican that is in Congress from Maryland. Now, I know there are Republicans that lots of them that live in Maryland. How is it you're talking about getting rid of the only Republican? This is out of control. It's completely out of control. The reason why the Democrats are upset is because the GOP has decided to do something about it. We're not going to put up with this anymore. Now, is this the right way to do it? I think so. At this point, I think so. Are there better ideas? I do think so, and I want to talk about that coming up in a minute. But I also want to make sure that I mention Lee Zeldin. He is our EPA administrator, and he has done some remarkable work. I just did an interview with him on Friday that was a podcast over the weekend. And let me just give you a couple of things. Let me just give you cut 10 here. This is Lee Zeldin from the EPA. Listen to what this guy is doing.
So when we came in, the agency was at 16,155. We've been going through reorganizations, reductions in force. We're going down to 12 and a half. So over the course of the first 6 months, we were able to reduce the size by 23%, which aside from the over $29 billion of grants that we canceled, that's $750 million of annual savings to the taxpayer. And then we're also doing real estate consolidations. We closed an EPA museum that nobody went to. That cost a lot of money. We're canceling media subscriptions that were overpriced. There's just a lot of ways to save money.
But you're making enemies. I've heard that there are 400 of your own employees that have turned on you and wrote, some scathing letter about, how you're the Antichrist or whatever, and how you're going to kill the environment. What is it like to be you to walk into an agency where you're not the most popular?
So here's the great news. I would say that a large majority of the employees, a very large majority of the employees I've interacted with, and I engage with the career employees every day here at headquarters. I've been to 30 states, so I've engaged with EPA across all 10 of our regions, and they get it. You do a career inside of a federal agency, 20, 30, 40 years, and you'll have very different presidents from one administration to the next. Sometimes it's a president you voted for, sometimes it's not. To the point that you just raised, we also have exceptions. And in this case, we had a letter that was drafted where agency employees using their title written as agency employees were providing their own very public opinion of where the agency should go on policy, ignoring the will of the American public. There's a reason why President Trump is now in the Oval Office, that I'm here in this position after being confirmed by the Senate. You can't, as an employee in an agency doing a 20, 30, 40-year career, just always insist that whatever the policy and ideology is of the furthest left president you support over the course of your term, that whatever they want during those 4 or 8 years, whatever they're pursuing, is treated etched in stone like it's a commandment. The pendulum will swing because the American public voted for it. The American public doesn't want an electric vehicle mandate. They don't want the coal plants to be shut. They want more, they want energy dominance unleashed here in America. They want to be able to create jobs. They want us to be cognizant of their concerns.
I will tell you that I wish we had the clip of where I said to him, are you going to be able to complete this in 4 years? Because we talked about energy, how they are unleashing energy in power plants that are coal, that are gas, that are also nuclear. The things that he talked to me about and how they are moving rapidly on that. And then also the things that they are doing to get rid of some of the really, really, really bad laws that were brought in by Barack Obama. How he is erasing all of those barriers and returning this to a thing where it's not opposed to industry. It's for the environment. It wants to make sure we're all living by the rules. We have clean air, clean water, but it is also not against business. We have to have energy. We must have energy to be a country that will survive. He knows that. When I asked him, how much can you get done? Because I asked Donald Trump this question. I said, can we get this done in 4 years? He said, no, we need 12 years. We need 12. He said, hopefully, though, we will have a good replacement for me for another 8 years, and we'll be able to do it. But we have to really root this out all the way, 12 years. Lee Zeldin told me, I thought we were going to need a lot more time. He said, Glenn, I've got people on the inside, whistleblowers, who are on the inside going, no, Lee, this, and this. This is what they've been doing. He said, I believe we will have the EPA fixed by early next year. Fixed by early next year. I found that astounding. Because that is, Stu, can you name an agency that is more out of control than EPA? I mean, besides all of them. EPA? I mean, look at what the power the EPA has.
Yeah, massive, massive power. Now, it has been curbed recently with the Supreme Court, which does give you some hope that his optimism is justified. It feels more optimistic than I ever get about anything. So I hope Lee is right on this. Right. You do?
He was talking about how, grants had been going through and they were all just for NGOs and, they were used for, nefarious things. He talked about how he has cut the regulation, cut the wait time on things. He said we can actually build things now, and we're still going to have clean air and clean water, and we're going to have forests, et cetera, et cetera. He said, but I'm just cutting all of the garbage out of here. I was so optimistic when I heard that. I mean, I think this administration, I don't know how they seem to get this many good people, but he's got so many really good people who are really focused on the right things. I think they are cleaning up this deep state thing.
I feel too, Glenn, and tell me if this is something that you've sensed at all, is, I think Zeldin's doing a really good job, but I've been, same way encouraged by everything he's been doing.
You'll
feel
love
like
him after you listen to the podcast.
Oh,
You'll
great.
love him.
Yeah,
Anyway, go ahead.
I feel like there's a situation where sometimes the stuff that gets highly promoted is not the stuff that winds up being the most successful, or the thing you'll remember maybe 20 years later. Where like maybe Doge is a good example of this, right? Like there was a lot of hype around Doge. They definitely got some stuff done, but is that going to be as impactful as what maybe is going on at the EPA? I think maybe not, right? I think at the end of the day, we might find out that the EPA is a much more significant difference for the country in the long term than maybe all the stuff that was talked about with Doge. And, there's a bunch of examples like this. A lot of times the news focuses, has you looking this way, and there's a bunch of people who are working really hard in agencies that don't make the headlines that are really making the biggest difference.
So there were two things that happened with the Obama administration that we covered at the time, but we didn't really stand on, that had huge ramifications. And one, I think we're just starting to figure out now, and that is the propaganda rules, that he changed the rules of propaganda, that we could do propaganda on the American people. I know we talked about it. I don't know why we didn't make a bigger deal out of it, because now that seems like, oh, well, that's how they're getting away with a lot of things. That's where the Office of, Internet Engagement or whatever that was called, where they were telling people what you can and can't say online. All of that stems from that. And when it comes to the EPA, the Obama endangerment finding, where they found that CO2 is dangerous for life. What? No, it's not. It's part of it. It's part of it. The trees breathe it in. We breathe it out. They breathe out oxygen. We breathe out CO2. We both grow because of those things. And it's remarkable to me that, the endangerment finding. Do you remember standing on that as hard as we did on like Obamacare and things like that?
I mean, I know we did not cover it as, in as much time, for sure. I do remember being very, very angry about it and worried about it. But again,
I do too.
It was one of those things that was just kind of set. I mean, Obamacare was a law, right? There was a chance to stop it. In fact, we did stop it, really. I mean, we stopped it when Scott Brown got elected in Massachusetts, and then they did it anyway. So, it was a law. There was much more buildup to that. This was just them doing it. I mean, once they got elected, we knew that they would take these types of steps. And but you're right. It wasn't seen at the time as big a deal when it was. That was a massive deal that has cost our country hundreds of billions of dollars at the very least.
Yeah. And now with Lee Zeldin taking it away and reversing that, it's just as a big of a deal, but you don't know it because I haven't heard at least a case of what the EPA is doing. I haven't heard a full case of this. Lee Zeldin, he lined it all out. It's a great podcast. It came out on Saturday. You can find it wherever you get your podcasts, but it is the podcast with Lee Zeldin. All right, back in just a minute. Let me tell you about Patriot Mobile. Let's say you're buying a burger and you hand the kid your money, right? And he hands you your bag, and then he turns and punches some guy in the face. And you'd be like, why did you do that? He says, comes with the burger. It's part of what you paid for. Wait, no, I didn't want you to punch somebody in the face. You're probably not going to go back to that burger joint again, right? Right? I mean, who wants their money going to something that you never asked for? Well, that is exactly what big cell phone companies do. This is how they operate. You pay your bill, and then behind the counter, they find causes that you don't support, and they do. And they hand them a bag of cash. I mean, you should be thinking, wait a minute, I just wanted a phone plan, not to finance somebody else's leftist agenda. Well, Patriot Mobile is different. They're America's only Christian conservative wireless provider, and you still get the same great service, great coverage, and a fair price. And your money is helping support causes that you believe in. Switching is easier than ever. You can activate in minutes from the comfort of your own home, keep your number, your phone, or you can upgrade. Time to make the switch today. Go to patriotmobile.com/Beck or call 972-PATRIOT, 972-PATRIOT, It's patriotmobile.com/Beck. Use the promo code Beck, and you'll get a free month of service. Patriot Mobile, 972-PATRIOT.
You know, truth makes the left so mad. And right about now, they're all losing their minds. We must be doing something right. Stick around. Beck will continue right after this.
So if you've ever tried so-called healthy breads and bagels from the grocery store, you know the experience. They look okay on the shelf, but the moment you bite in, it's like chewing on recycled cardboard. We've all been there, and it's funny because not long ago, bread was like the hero of the food pyramid. We were told to pile it high and build every meal on it and then load up on the carbs. And then these days, kind of protein is in the spotlight. Carbs have been exiled to the naughty list. And suddenly bread is treated like it's public enemy number one. But it doesn't have to be that way. The bakers over at Royo have cracked the code with breads and bagels that are healthy and taste great. Every loaf has, and every bagel has, it's baked fresh daily. It's used clean, minimal ingredients. You can actually pronounce them. The higher in fiber, they have protein. They're lower in carbs. Some of them come in at just like 2 net carbs, which means you don't have to feel guilty about enjoying the foods you love. I've been having a sandwich on this bread like every day for 2 weeks, and it's just great. It's really, really filling, and it's really something that I think you're going to like. It's like 30 calories a slice. That's the magic of Royo. EatRoyo.com. Use the promo code BLAZE. Get 20% off. The promo code is BLAZE at EatRoyo.com. I will say, you want to eat healthy, you want to eat lighter, whatever you want to do. If you're like me, bread's got to be part of it. It's just it needs to be there, and you can do it with Royo. It's EatRoyo, ROYO, EatRoyo.com, promo code BLAZE.
AI has just found some breaking news here. Listen to this about John Bolton.
We seem to have breaking news. Apparently, the FBI has found the USB thumb drive they were looking for. Mr. Bolton was reportedly hiding it under his mustache. This is apparently the same technique he used to smuggle information in and out of the State Department. Apparently, it was President Trump who alerted the FBI to make sure they checked under his mustache. He said, and I quote, "Make sure you look under that son of a bitch's mustache. I never trusted that mustache."
I don't know that his mustache is trustworthy, to be honest.
I don't think so. And I think it might even be one of those fake ones, a glue-on mustache.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, who has a mustache like that, honestly?
He owns it.
I'm still looking into this John Bolton thing because there's so much to this, and I don't think I've heard anybody really get to the bottom of it yet. We have time today. I want to explore that with you just a little bit because there's more to this story, I think. All right, next, gerrymandering.